Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're here with my latest impulse buy. This is the DJI Phantom 3. You know, it's funny, I'm generally immune to sales pitches, except when Amazon says they can get it to me on Saturday when I'm looking at it on Friday, and that was all it took for me. Now, this is about $1,250 all in, so it's not inexpensive. But for what it can do, it's actually a pretty good deal, I think, because the stability and the quality of the video and photo output out of here is astounding. And you'll see some sample footage that I'll sprinkle in throughout this review so you can get a feel for that. So the business end of this device is the camera. This is a 4K camera. It stays incredibly stable while in flight also, and that's really what you're looking at this thing for, is to get that stability. But what I also like about it, though, is the fact that when you take it out of the box, it is ready to go. The only thing you have to do is just screw on the propellers and charge the batteries, and that's it. It's really completely assembled right out of the gate. Really deceivingly simple to operate, actually. I'm going to pop this battery in so you can see what happens when you switch it on. So you get the controller in the box, you got the drone in the box, and it is ready to fly. Again, once those batteries are charged, you're off and running. There's a little self-check here, as you can see, and that camera you can see how it's kind of working here to keep its image very steady. Even when things are shaking, it's really stable, and you'll see again some of that footage that I'm sprinkling in throughout the course of the review here. It records onto an SD card, which you can put in right over here. It comes with a 16 gigabyte card, UHS 3, I believe that's the standard they call it, which is a faster card than what most are at the department stores. So you want to look for that UHS 3, that little U with the 3 in it, because when you're recording at 4K, it is pushing a lot more data to that card in a very fast way, so you need to make sure you have a card that can support that. Those tend to be a little bit more expensive, but you get a 16 gig card in the box, which is good for about a half hour of continuous recording, which is about what its battery life is. This battery that comes with it, you can always buy more, of course. This battery is good for about 25 minutes or so of flight time, and in my experience, that seems to be about what I've been getting with it. The batteries are removable, and it comes with a charger, so you can charge it outside of the drone, so you can have one charging while the other one is flying. So really simple setup, again, to get everything up and running, but you want to be careful with it because it is deceivingly simple to fly. And what makes it deceivingly simple is how good its controls are. So this connects directly to the drone via its own wireless protocol, and you're using physical controls to manipulate it. So the controls are very responsive. So when I push up on here, it takes off, and once I let up, it'll just start to hover. And you've got a lot of, it's an analog control, so you have a lot of ranges to the speed and precision that you want to fly at. So much so that when you are flying around with it, you really feel like you're in control. And that's kind of a problem when you're first learning how to fly this thing, because you can really get a little bit too overconfident and maybe fly it into something, or maybe have it do something that you weren't anticipating. So I would be really cautious as you're playing with this, despite the precision of the controls, just to keep things a little calm initially until you really understand how it works. So to make it take off, you have to go into the app, and I'll show you the app in a second. But once it's airborne, you just push up to go up, push down to go down. You can adjust its which direction the nose is pointing here, just by left or right on the stick, and this will make you move in a direction relative to the front of the aircraft. And you want to check your lights on here to make sure you know which direction is which. They have some great training videos, which I do suggest you watch. So to make it move forward in the direction of the nose, you just push this way. You can go backwards, left and right. Really precise and really fun to fly with. Now, what's nice is that your iPad or your Android tablet also works with this as a companion as opposed to the main control surface. So when I was outside earlier, my iPad overheated, but I was still able to get this thing onto the ground because I had the ability to control it with the controller and not with the iPad exclusively. Let's see how that app works. All right, we're going to take a quick look at the iPad app, and the Android app functions in a similar way. But if you do have questions about specific things, do leave them in the comments below, because I do want to do a series of follow-ups on this device. It does have a lot of depth to it, which we'll cover in future videos. Now, what's cool is that you connect to the app via a hardwired connection. And I should also note that you can basically fit up to a 10-inch iPad on the controller. It's a little bit cumbersome with this big iPad on here, but it'll support something this big, and it will go down to a phone if you want to do something smaller. So you have some options there, although it is nice to have the big screen here when you are up and running. Now, what's cool is that it connects via a hardwired connection to the controller. So the controller and the drone communicate wirelessly, but you connect to your device with your mobile device with a physical USB connection. So you have a really good connection between the controller and the iPad or Android tablet, and you still get your Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi on the device is not connecting to the drone or the controller. So you have everything going through this cable, which is really nice. Now, there's a lot of stuff to look at on here, a lot of things to configure. The most important thing, I think, is to look at the battery life on here. So you've got some pretty granular data as to what your battery life is looking like. They even keep kind of a history as to what your battery status was in different flights. I mean, there's a lot of data here if you're into that kind of thing to make sure that you're going to have enough. The big thing that I like up here is this graph that kind of gives you an idea as to how much battery life you have all the time. So you don't have to kind of dig into that menu. And if you're not really sure what 91% means, you've got a visual representation of that. This little yellow dot there is the safe to home warning. So as the drone is flying away, it's keeping a calculation as to how much power it's going to need to get back to where it started. So if you're flying over water, that's a really critical feature to have. So when your little line here gets down there, you'll know it's time to call it quits. And you can see it's kind of moving around there a little bit as it's trying to figure out where it's going. Now, right now we're inside my house, so we're not picking up any GPS satellites, but when you're outside, you'll have a very accurate idea as to when it's time to turn around and land it. Down here, you've got your full altitude and speed information, which is really handy to have, and how far you've flown. That's a really nice feature, and it's good to know that because you want to keep it under 400 feet while you're flying around. And sometimes when it gets really high, it's hard to know exactly where you're hitting the limit there. So it's nice to be able to look at that data. Has a compass on board also, so you can see which way the nose is facing for when you're using your controller as well. The camera is controlled with touchscreen controls here, so I can adjust the shutter speed and exposure just by kind of tapping around on my screen. But I also have very direct controls manually of the exposure. So if I'm doing a sunset or something, I can turn down the ISO, adjust my shutter speed accordingly, and I can also do some other things like you can kind of overexpose or underexpose if you want to do that. We'll switch it back into programmed mode here also. But even in the automatic mode, you can automatically set the exposure to up or down if you wish to, and it'll try to adjust the shutter speed and ISO automatically to do that. It's a 2.8 lens for the aperture on there also. You can take pictures and record video on here too. You can switch it into video mode like this, but there's also physical controls on the remote, so you can actually just hit a physical button on the remote to take a picture or start and stop video. You can also adjust the gimbal with a little control on the controller also. There's a little wheel back here to do that. So lots of options for controlling it, which I like a lot. There's also a map down here. The map is just kind of a guide to let you know where you've been. It keeps kind of breadcrumbs as to where you're flying around while you're in flight. You can also make that map go full screen. So if you want to make sure you've covered, maybe you're taking an aerial of a building or something, it'll give you an idea as to how that looks while you're flying around. And it gives you some really good detail about your signal strength, both to the controller as well as your ability to get HD video transmitted back to the device here. As you can see, the frame rate is excellent. This is 30 frames per second video coming back at 720p, and there's an option to even stream it over to YouTube live, which is cool. So we're going to do that in a future video. Maybe we'll schedule something so you can all tune in when I try that out. So a lot of features. There's probably a lot more to cover that we didn't get to on here because you can really do quite a bit. Oh, I did want to talk about taking off. So there is a way to make it take off with just the physical controller, but I like the fact that it's not just a push button here on the app. So if I want it to take off, I have to hit that button and then slide it over in order for it to take off, which is nice. So especially when I'm in the studio here, I'm not going to accidentally send it into the air and destroy everything, including it, while we're playing around with it. But really nice way to control this thing. And it's nice that the iPad portion or the Android tablet portion is kind of a companion versus a direct control of the aircraft, which is something that the Parrot drone has kind of suffered from because it tends to kind of lose its connection. You sometimes don't always get the best video quality out of it. With these physical controls directly connected to the drone, combined with this as an information device, I think is a much better way to do it. And I've been really pleased with that overall. And I have to say, just as a product, this thing is just amazing. I've been following this company for a while. This is the first drone that I've owned from them. But I've been really impressed with just how precise this thing feels, how nicely it flies, and how high quality it is. I haven't had that fear of it kind of drifting away from me that I've had with other drones. It's very much a device that's under control, at least in my testing so far, most of the time. So I can definitely say this is probably the coolest thing I've bought all year. I'm really eager to share this with you, and hope you enjoyed some of the test footage that I've been playing throughout here. If I have some extra stuff that didn't make it to the video, I'll put it in at the end after I finish my blabbing away here. And I'm also going to post 4K image quality in the playlist that I have for this device, so you can see what this looks like right out of the camera too, because I only upload this stuff at 1080p. So that's the DJI Phantom 3 Professional. This is not the last you'll see of this. I definitely want to get some feedback from you as to things you'd like to see. So leave those in the comments below. We'll do some follow-up videos over the next couple of weeks, and as they add some new features and change some things around, we'll keep coming back to this moving forward, because I think this is going to be one of those things that we spend a lot of time on. This is Lon.TV, and thanks for watching.